What's up, everybody? In today's video, we're talking about tons of severe storms that are expected to increase across the central plains into the midwestern portions of the U.S. This is going to cause tornadoes and more. Let's get right into today's video. Alright, the first thing we're going to be talking about in today's video is this dangerous enhanced risk of severe storms that we do have in effect, ranging from Burlington all the way over to Davenport areas, really close to Chicago, including Peoria, Burlington, Davenport, Iowa City, and Kirksville areas under this dangerous severe weather risk. Now, the slight risk of severe storms ranges from Kansas City all the way over up to Des Moines, Chicago, Metro, all the way under the severe weather risk. And we also have a dangerous tornado threat with these storms that is upcoming. The 2% tornado risk ranges from St. Joseph over to Quincy, Des Moines, Lansing, Grand Rapids, and Milwaukee areas, while the 5% risk of tornadoes ranges from Kirksville all the way over to Chicago Metro has a risk of tornadoes today, Janesville, Rockford areas, and then the most dangerous 10% chance of tornadoes, meaning we could have several tornadoes in this yellow and brown areas, ranging from Burlington over to Davenport, Galesburg, really close to Ottawa areas. So guys, be really prepared here. Make sure to have your alerts on, as we could have some dangerous storms come through this area today and bring some big time tornadoes. Several tornadoes could be possible today across this area, as the environment is favorable for tornadoes across these regions. And we also do have a risk of damaging winds above 60 miles an hour, 60 to 70 miles an hour winds, especially in Davenport, Chicago, Burlington, in the yellow and red areas. Need to be weather aware for this severe weather risk today, where we could have 60 to 70 miles an hour winds and some isolated hail damage up to 1.75 inches in diameter for today. Now, we also have a severe weather risk ranging from Denver all the way over to Fort Collins, Cheyenne, all is under this, all the way over to North Platte areas and portions of extreme northeastern Colorado and extreme northwestern Kansas and western portions of Nebraska areas, really including Denver Metro under this severe weather risk. Now, there's no risk for tornadoes, but we do have a risk for wind damage in Ray, Imperial areas, and a risk for hail damage in Denver Metro. So if you're in Denver Metro, make sure to have your cars indoors, as we could have some big hail that rolls through the region today that could cause some significant damages to your cars and stuff, especially there in Cheyenne too, across these regions. Now, we also do have a slight risk of severe storms in effect. So if you're in Clovis, Amarillo, and Hereford, Canyon areas, and Dumas and Borger and Pampa, be ready, as you are under a slight risk of severe storms today. There's no tornado threat with these storms, but the main threat is going to be no wind damage, but no hail damage, but mostly wind damage with this threat. So 60 to 70 miles an hour winds could be possible later this afternoon into tonight across Amarillo, Hereford, Clovis areas. So if you are in that area and portions of the Texas Panhandle, be weather aware, as we could have some dangerous severe weather today. Now, for the timing of these storms across portions of Iowa into portions of northern Illinois areas, the main timing of these storms will be, we already are going to see some storms start to develop right now across portions of central Iowa and will track to the east, but the biggest time for dangerous storms will most likely be from 5 through 8 p.m., basically in the late afternoon to early evening hours across these areas, where we could have some damaging winds and several tornadoes likely here across portions of southeastern Iowa and northwestern Illinois areas. So if you are in that area, be really prepared, as we are going to see some big time wind damage and several tornadoes possible, especially there near Davenport, where it's a huge line of storms where we could see QLCS tornadoes start to roll through around the 7 p.m. time frame in Davenport areas as it tracks towards the east. And then more big storms could start to roll through Chicago later into the evening hours if it doesn't dissipate by then. But some big storms are definitely going to roll through, and we could see some big storms start to move across the Kansas City areas, with maybe a tornado or two possible and some isolated wind damage around 7 p.m. In Kansas City too. So some big storms that are going to occur that could cause big time wind damages. We could see a line of storms and some supercellular thunderstorms that could produce tornadoes. Now, for the timing of the storms in the parts of the Texas Panhandle and in portions of extreme northeastern Colorado, we will see some big storms start to develop around the 4 to 5 p.m. in the late afternoon hours in portions of Denver, Colorado areas, and more storms there near Cheyenne, Wyoming, that could push towards the east and cause some isolated hail and wind damage with those storms. So definitely be prepared for some big time hailers in Denver, Cheyenne areas, where we could have some of that, and then more damaging winds in portions of Nebraska closer to North Platte around the nighttime hours around 10 to 11 and even the midnight hours there. Now, the big storms in portions of the Texas Panhandle, we could see some isolated cells form around Amarillo around the 6 p.m. time frame in the late afternoon, and then a line of storms could push through the area late in the nighttime hours around 9 through 11 p.m. all the way maybe close to midnight across Amarillo and near Clovis areas where we could have some damaging winds that could be pretty significant down there in portions of the Texas Panhandle, so be prepared for that. Now, for the storms that are going to be across Lansing into Detroit, Toledo, Fort Wayne, and Detroit and Lansing and Flint areas tomorrow, across portions of central and northern Michigan, and the portions of Ohio and Indiana areas near Fort Wayne, Toledo, all under the severe weather risk. We could have some damaging winds around 60 to 70 miles an hour in these areas, so definitely be prepared tomorrow in the afternoon hours as some lines of storms could roll through and cause some damaging wind gusts across these regions. And we also could see a tornado too in portions of northern parts of Michigan, really north of Detroit near Flint and Alpena areas in Michigan where a tornado 2 is possible. Nothing too significant, but don't let your guard down as we could see an isolated tornado 2 in Bay City, Flint, Saginaw, all the way up to Alpena areas and portions of Michigan. So definitely a severe weather risk that is definitely probable there in portions of Michigan, portions of Indiana, and Ohio areas. Now, we also have another slight risk of severe weather really in portions of Texas in the extreme north, south, eastern New Mexico areas under the severe weather risk, which rains across Midland, all the way over to Big Spring, Fort Stockton, Fort Davis, Marfa areas, Hobbs, all the way over to Pecos areas, under the severe weather risk, with the main threat being hail damage. So we could see some big time hail damage here above 1 inch in diameter, where we could see quarter size all the way up to ping pong ball size hail. So definitely keep your cars indoors and be prepared in these areas near Midland, Big Spring, all the way over to Fort Stockton areas and Hobbs, in portions of New Mexico and Texas under the severe weather risk, and a risk for wind damage above 60 miles an hour too. With that is definitely a concern. Now, for the excessive rainfall probabilities across portions of the U.S., here we are going to see a risk of flash flooding with a slight risk, meaning a 50 to 40% chance of flash flooding across Kansas City, all the way over to Columbia, Des Moines, Chicago, Madison, all the way up to Milwaukee, and really close to Green Bay and Oshkosh areas. So if you are in Cedar Rapids, Davenport, all of those areas, be prepared as we could see some isolated flash flooding in these areas as many rain and storms could train over the same areas over and over again and cause some significant rainfall. So definitely be prepared and do not let your guard down when rain comes. And then another risk of rainfall across portions of Cheyenne, North Platte, and Colby areas for today. Now, tomorrow's flash flooding risk is a lot further south. We could see some flash flooding really close to Roswell, Carlsbad areas, Ruidoso, which just saw some big time flooding a few days ago, Fort Davis, Fort Stockton, San Angelo, Abilene, Fort Worth, and Dallas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Fayetteville, all the way over to Amarillo and Lubbock areas. So if you are in that yellow area, you have a 50 to 40% chance of flooding across these regions. So be prepared as we could see some flash flooding possible. And on day 3, meaning the 13th of July, we will see some flash flooding possible across portions of Fort Worth, Dallas, Oklahoma City, and the Lubbock areas. And another risk of flash flooding with a 15 to 40% chance, slight risk of flash flooding on day 3 in Washington, D.C., Winchester areas, Harrisburg, Williamsport, all the way over to Syracuse and Utica areas, as we could see some heavy rainfall in these regions on that day. Now, for the rainfall across a lot of these areas, we could see for the temperatures across the entire U.S. Over the next 6 to 10 days or so, we are going to be seeing a big pattern change with cooler weather across portions of the central U.S. And the Midwestern portions of the U.S., which is really rare for this time of year in the summer, that we see below average temperatures in Omaha, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Missouri areas, Illinois, Texas, Oklahoma. So basically this whole part of the U.S. could see some below average temperatures. Now, this does not mean it's going to be cold in these areas. This just means that there's cooler than average temperature. So if your average temperature is 90 degrees in this area in the blue, then it's going to be more like 85 or 80 degrees in that area. So that's basically what I'm going to be talking about. And then more above average temperatures in the northeastern portions of the U.S., including Boston, Springfield, Hartford, Augusta, Portland areas, and the portions of Vermont, Maine, where we could see more above average temperatures. So if this area's average temperature is 80 degrees, it's going to be more like 85 to 90 in these areas in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia areas, and even more above average temperatures in portions of the southern U.S. and even the northwestern U.S., seeing above average temperatures, including Oregon, Washington, near Seattle, Eugene, and the Salt Lake City areas that could see some above average temperatures too. Alright, hope everybody did enjoy today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel for more severe weather updates so you're prepared when the next significant weather occurs and it hits your area. Now, we are going to be seeing a lot of severe weather over the next few days or so in the portions of the upper Midwest areas and a lot of the plains and Great Plains areas, and then a lot of flash flooding that we are also going to see across the next few days or so, and some below average temperatures in the Midwest with above average temperatures in the Southeast and Northeast. Hope you guys did like today's video, and bye everybody.